and welcome to the Schwartz Advisors Report. I'm Emma Henderson, Managing Editor of Aftermarket News. With me today is CEO and Managing Partner of Schwartz Advisors, Rick Schwartz. Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great, Emma. Good to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And we have some exciting news to talk about. So I think let's just start off from here. So, what are some of the Schwartz Advisors takeaways from 2024? And how does the team view the aftermarket going into 2025?
Well, Emma, any comments on takeaways from 2024 will vary from company to company. For Schwartz Advisors, we had a really strong year last year in all three areas of our business. That includes our sell side practice, where we sell companies, the advisory practice, where we work with private equity firms looking to make acquisitions, and in our consulting practice, where we work with companies in the aftermarket on growth strategies. So we had a very busy year last year, and it was a real positive year in terms of all the different work we did. So we're entering 2025 with a lot of positive momentum. In terms of how we view this year, for our business, we're actually very optimistic. We see positive signs in the economy, things like lower and stable interest rates. We look at some of the leading indicators like the vehicle miles traveled, the age of vehicles that are on the road, and even gas prices, which are fairly stable. So certainly there's some leading indicators that are positive. We have to balance that with some of the potential headwinds, issues like tariffs. We have to see how that will play out. And then, some companies are just better positioned for some of the challenges ahead, and they will probably do well this year. Some companies that maybe have some internal challenges ahead are going to potentially have a rough time of it, even though the overall economy is pointing towards a positive year for the aftermarket.
Well, that's good news. And you ended 2024 with some exciting and potentially transformational news. So, what are you allowed to tell me about it?
Yeah, right at the end of 2024, we completed a transaction where we put together the deal to sell a company called Jack Doheny Company, or JDC. And it was a real exciting deal. JDC is a distributor of specialized equipment. Think of specialty trucks that do things like the bucket trucks that help to um, do things that keep the grid running and electrical lines running. They also do a lot of the specialty vehicles that work with sewers, and a lot of other specialty trucks. So they're a distributor, they're a leasing agent, and they do a lot of repair work. And they have a national footprint as well as a big footprint in Ontario, Canada. So it's by far the largest transaction that we've worked on at Schwartz Advisors.
And it's my understanding that most of the Schwartz Advisors transactions are with traditional aftermarket companies. So, you touched on this a little bit, but talk a little bit more about how JDC is like slightly different than other aftermarket businesses.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little different than a lot of the different projects we've worked on over the years. So our core business is in the traditional aftermarket. A lot of people in the industry know us for our work with WDs, with suppliers. We've done a lot of work on the SEMA side of the aftermarket, and on the heavy duty side of the aftermarket, we've worked with technology companies, and the list goes on in terms of, I think we've worked in just about every segment of the aftermarket. JDC was our first project or project of scale where we work with something that's more industrial in nature. And when I say industrial, it's outside of the traditional aftermarket view of the types of projects we work on because of the distribution channels they work in at JDC. But in a lot of ways, JDC was really very similar to a lot of the projects we've done. One, in terms of the mechanics of the deal, but also the fact that they do a lot of repair and service work, which is a core part of our business.
So, I have to know who was the buyer and what attracted them to JDC.
Yeah, the buyer for JDC was a private equity firm called Kinderhook Industries. Now, many people in the aftermarket know about Kinderhook. They've been very active as an investor in the aftermarket for a number of years. They've been involved in a lot of well-known deals in various segments of the aftermarket. And they also are very active in investing in environmental and industrial deals. So JDC lined up for them for a lot of reasons. The aftermarket play in terms of the repair and service, um, the leasing part of JDC, which is a big part of their business model, as well as some of the environmental distribution channels that they work in. And really, what it came down to, what attracted Kinderhook is the same thing that attracts any kind of buyer to any kind of acquisition, a really strong management team, and terrific growth prospects for the next several years.
And given the kind of business that JDC is involved in, are you seeing a new category of buyer and or seller begin to reach out to you guys?
The answer is yes, and we also are going to be focusing on our core business. So the yes part of new opportunities for Schwartz Advisors is, yeah, it will probably open up some projects for us that are more industrial in nature, as opposed to just a traditional aftermarket. And there are a lot of industrial types of deals that people might look at and say, hey, that's really an aftermarket deal. It could be suppliers, it could be aftermarket companies selling agricultural equipment or other kinds of commercial equipment. But at the end of the day, JDC was a family-owned business, and that's one of the sweet spots for us at Schwartz Advisors. We come from family businesses. That's the background of a lot of the partners at Schwartz Advisors. So we understand the dynamic and what family businesses go through. So we're able to talk to them not just as advisors, but as people who've been in their seat. And this also includes some closely held businesses that are not necessarily family businesses, but they're just very closely held. So, when someone's looking to either sell their company or they're looking for some strategic advice on how to grow the business, a lot of times they're looking for people who can understand what they're going through, and that's one of I think, the big selling points for our team at Schwartz Advisors.
Absolutely. And I am kind of curious. This was a large deal. So when deals get bigger in terms of enterprise value, does that make them more complex? Do they take longer?
Um, Great questions. Let's break it down into the complexity question and also the time to get deals done. The size of the deal doesn't really make it more complex. It brings up some issues. Um, but really, the complexity of a deal is based on things like the state of the business that's being sold. Are there any legal issues, regulatory issues, environmental issues that need to be addressed? One thing that we're really good at, and we've got a terrific team that works on the transaction itself, is we're really good at getting complex and sometimes messy deals done. And you know what? Some of the most challenging deals that we've ever done were some of the smallest deals that we've ever done, just because there was, stuff that had to be dealt with in order for the buyer and seller to agree on a transaction. Fortunately, with JDC, some of that wasn't there, even though it was by far the biggest deal we've ever done. Now, in your second question, you asked about the time to get deals done. That is definitely a factor, and it doesn't matter how big the deal is. But in the last year or two, we've definitely seen the time frame to get deals done get a little longer for various reasons. A lot of the buyers, doesn't matter if they're a private equity or what we would call a strategic buyer, are taking a lot more time to do careful due diligence. The underwriting process, meaning just the process of getting the financing put together, is taking a little longer. And some of the buyers are just backed up with several different deals that they're looking at. So um, we're seeing the time to close a deal is taking a little bit longer, but it's not really a function of the complexity of the deal. It's just the dynamics in the market right now.
That makes sense. And so I am curious if this changes the size and scope of future Schwartz Advisors deals.
The answer is yes, and we're still going to be focusing on our core business. So, in the last couple of years, we've set a couple of records in terms of deals that we've completed, deal sizes that we've completed. So, certainly, I think we're proving to the marketplace that we can handle some of the bigger deals, some of the really large deals that require um, a lot of moving parts to get put together to complete the deal. But, at the end of the day, we're still a really good option for family-owned businesses that are looking to sell. Um, and like I said before, I think we really understand the dynamics that go on when a family is thinking about, is this time to sell or should I look at other options? And sometimes the best answer is this is not the best time to sell. And we will tell somebody if we think they should hang in there and continue to run their business. So I don't think you'll see any changes in our core business and our core focus on family businesses, but you'll also see us maybe push the envelope in terms of deal sizes that we take on.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us for the Schwartz Advisors Report. For AMN, I'm Emma Henderson. Thank you so much for joining us.